Embroidery. My name is Neil Kelly with Generations Embroidery Systems. As some of you may have seen from our waiting screen there, it's going to be me that's hosting the webinar class this morning, and Andrea Bato, one of our colleagues here at Generations, is going to be presenting some information for us. So hopefully everybody enjoys the class. I'm going to go ahead and pull up a quick outline of the things that we're going to be talking about. Our class is going to be recorded as available to you to download off of the website. And we're going to be going through today's topic, which is going to be going until about 12 o'clock. Let me explain a little bit about the webinar classes before we get going too far. The webinar classes, everybody's in a listen-only mode, which means that basically we can't hear you or see you. You can just hear us and see our screens on your computer screens. So sit back and relax. If you have a question in your meeting software box, there is a chat box where you can type in questions. I will be reading through those questions and either having Andrea address them or typing you back answers to your questions as we go along. And the question and answer chat box information will be available to everyone as well after the webinar class. So anyway, that's how it's going to work. If you have a question, please reserve it to the chat box, as we won't be answering audio questions during this webinar. We do have a large group here, so do give me some time to get back to your question, because I will be answering quite a few questions, I'm sure. So today's topic is decorating with Puffy Foam embroidery designs. And so Andrea is going to be going through what is 3D embroidery. What exactly does that mean when we refer to that? And how to digitize for this special application using our Generations or our Generations Plus software program. And what are the different techniques and settings and applications that you need to change and modify in order for this application to come out how you would expect it to. Then we're going to be going through adding 3D embroidery to an existing design. So that would be like a PES or some file that you may have purchased or downloaded. And how do we bring those into the Generations program and then use 3D embroidery with one of those designs. And that'll take us into one of the things that we want to talk about during this webinar class, which is going to be the new Generations Automatic Icon Creator Plus program and what that program can do for you on your PC. And then we're going through using the building block application portion of your program, as well as new artwork, whether it be like a JPEG or scanned image or something, and using those type of design elements for 3D embroidery. And then we're going to finally summarize all this with getting it out of your software program and applying this technique to your embroidery machine, whether you have a home machine or a commercial machine. So we're going to be talking about, how do you finish it off and create this 3D embroidery design to, make a nice finished decoration for yourself. So, and then I'll come back on at the end there in the last maybe 15 minutes or so, and we'll summarize the webinar class for everybody, and I hope everybody that enjoys it. So with that said, my time's up. I'm going to pass it on over to Anne because we do have a lot of information to cover today. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
All right, thanks, Neil. Again, this webinar is for 3D Puffy Foam embroidery. Some people call it just Puffy Foam, or some people call it 3D embroidery. I'm going to go ahead and show my screen, and you're going to see an example of Puffy Foam. First of all, let's talk about what is 3D embroidery, or what is Puffy Foam embroidery. And 3D embroidery gives your embroidery a raised effect to give added depth and dimension. Many times we see this technique used on athletic caps, and it kind of gives an unexpected dimension to your embroidery, that it sticks out of the actual garment. It's a great accent. It's a great impact to your embroidery because people tend to, their eyes draw to that. It raises that embroidery profile. And there are different, there are different things that we have to do to get this effect. This is not just embroidery, but it uses a special foam that goes underneath the actual embroidery. I'm going to show you another example of puffy foam embroidery. Like I said, many times we see this on hats and athletic wear, but we can also use it to give it dimension to just our design. You see here on this fish, this top accent, that's actually puffy foam. It looks like raised embroidery. So how do we achieve this raised embroidery look? Well, in order to achieve the embroidery look, we need to do it, through our embroidery digitizing, but we also need the specialty material called puffy foam. With puffy foam, I'm going to go ahead and show a new picture. They basically usually come in sheets, and these sheets come in many different colors and also many different thicknesses. You can go as little as like 2 millimeters up to 6 millimeters. And the thicker your foam, the further out your embroidery will kind of stand out on your garment. You can get puffy foam at many different places. It's amazing how available it actually is. You can go to many of the superstores such as Walmart. You can go to Joann Fabrics, and it's usually under the craft section, under the puffy foam craft section. There's also specialty embroidery puffy foam that's a bit more dense and especially designed for embroidery that you can get through various embroidery suppliers. I know Sulky carries it. I believe Ganold carries it. Many different places do carry this special material. And when you touch the puffy foam, it's actually squishy. A lot of people do use this in craft projects, but we're taking it to a different level. We're going to use it under the embroidery. So in using it under the embroidery, we have to look at how a design is created for puffy foam. And that's one of the things that we're going to learn today is how do we achieve this technique. It's through satin stitching. We definitely have to use satin stitches. I'm going to go back a picture. And you can see here, this is a satin stitch. And we're going to go through what the difference is between satin stitch and a complex fill is in a minute. But we have to definitely use a satin stitch. And the reason we use a satin stitch is because we don't want that foam to flatten out. We want it to stay raised. And when you put your stitches down on that puffy foam, it actually perforates the foam, so that foam can rip away from our project. So if we put down multiple stitch points on the foam where we want to keep the embroidery and raise that embroidery, it's just going to mat that foam down. So that's one of the big things that we need to make sure we do when creating a puffy foam design. So again, puffy foam comes in many different colors. A lot of people also use the spray adhesive to keep that down on your fabric, and we'll talk about that later. So what I'm going to go into now is I have Generations open right now, and I'm going to open that. And I have 2 designs up here, and they are both the same design, but they're really different stitch types. The left-hand side is purely satin stitching. The one on the right side is a complex fill. And what I want to talk about here is the difference between the two and why that's important to us with puffy. With the one on the left, it is a satin stitch, and we can see that it looks very smooth. One on the right-hand side is the complex fill. It doesn't look as smooth. What is happening on the left-hand side is that our stitches go from side to side. I'm going to right-click on this middle piece right here. We get the blue and white flashing line. What's going to happen is that our stitching is going to move from side to side to penetrate on each side of the shape, and it follows a specific stitch angle. As it goes back and forth, it does not put any stitches in between. Now, there are special settings in order for you to get a wide stitch like this, and we'll go over that later. But for now, we want to understand that satin stitching goes from side to side, following a specific stitch angle. And it actually follows multiple stitch angles. And right-click on the one right to it. I want to show you here that as it goes from the bottom to the top, it actually starts to stitch in an angle. And as it goes up and up and up, it starts to change angles. And those angles we can actually manipulate, and the satin stitch actually follows multiple angles. Whereas if I right-click on this area in here, this only follows one angle. The complex stitch follows one angle, and that's this angle right in the center here. As it goes from side to side or along this shape, this blue and white flashing line, as it travels back and forth, it drops in multiple needle penetrations. So it's going to start here and, put down almost like a walking stitch all the way to the side and back and forth. So we create a complex fill. Complex fill means that there's multiple stitch penetrations, and it only follows one angle. I'm going to show you here on my screen. As I put my cursor over on top of this angle, my cursor turns into a four-way cross. So with that four-way cross, I'm going to left-click, hold, and drag. I'm going to move that angle, and I'm going to have it straight up and down. Once I move that straight up and down and generate my stitches, you're going to see that now all my stitches are going in a direction. Now for the satin stitch, if I want to change the angles, I can't do this on my stitch view. Now I am in the stitch view. I can tell that I'm in the stitch view because up at the top on my view toolbar, I have view stitch selected. You can also tell by going up to view on the main menu bar, and view stitch is selected. The view for the stitch angles is actually view angle. So I'm going to left click on view angle. Again, that's under view. And I'm going to scroll down and left click on view angle. When I click on view angle, let me right click off to the side so nothing is selected. You're going to see a difference between the left and right side. On the left side, it looks like we have little red bars that are in our petals. On the right-hand side, we don't have that. And the reason we don't have that is because this is a complex fill and it only follows one angle. These red bars represent the stitch angles for a satin stitch. So I'm going to right-click on this section here. And when I right-click on that section, you're going to see my stitch angles. The stitch angles go on each side of the shape. And imagine this as your stitch. It goes from left to right. Now, each angle has two nodes and a handlebar in between. To alter the angle, we can grab one of the nodes, placing our cursor over the node, and left-click. Once we get that node left-clicked, it is selected, and it's red, and I can put my cursor back on top of it. And once it is that crosshair, I can left-click, hold, and drag. And notice I'm just moving it along the outside of the shape. So imagine this as your satin stitch. So our satin stitch is going to stitch like this. But how it follows a satin stitch is it's a block. Between this angle and this angle is one block. So it will, from this angle, and slowly transition to this angle. Then from this angle to this angle, there's no angles in. What it will do is slowly transition from this angle to this angle. So it'll have a slow transition and stitch this way, and then starting and start to slowly get to this angle. Then you see quite a big turn. This block right here, as it goes from this angle to this angle, it's going to turn. And it turns quite a bit. So let's go back to the stitch view and see how that translates to our stitches. So we're going to go to View, and then View Stitch. we can see here in the 3D view, there's that, transition that is quite big. And as we see it stitch, it transitions through the whole design between our 3 blocks. We had 1 block here between here. We had 1 block between here and here. And then we had 1 block between here and here. We can definitely add more angles. And also, like I showed you earlier, we can alter the angle to better accommodate our design. So I'm going to go back to the angle view. I'll go to View, and then View Angle. And let's change this angle right here to better suit this shape. With these bars, I'll place a cursor over my handlebar, left click, it'll turn red, and I'll left click, hold, and drag. Now see how that is straight across on this section. I'll also change this and kind of move it and alter these angles to best suit this shape. Also move this angle. Another is we can add and delete angles. To add an angle, we're going to go up to Angle on our main menu bar and Stitch Direction Guideline. When I left click on that, my cursor turns to a crosshair. I'm going to start by the area, left click, hold, and drag. And I'm going to drag it all the way across, let go of my left click, and there's that added angle. And now we have another block that we're working with, or another transition. I'll press Escape to get out of my tool, and let me go ahead and generate the stitches. Now you'll notice that my stitches have changed, and I believe they've changed for the better. It's not such a crazy transition here. It looks a lot smoother. I'm going to right-click off to the side, deselect, and you can see that, what a satin stitch is and how it follows multiple angles. That is going to be very important, especially for our puffy foam, because that puffy foam will be perforated by how our stitches lay down. So let's create a puffy foam design. We're first going to create a puffy foam accent to an already existing design. I'm going to go ahead and start a new file. We're going to go to File and New. And with Generations Plus, I can import using my enhanced import. It's that blue sewing machine at the top, or embroidery machine at the top, I should say. And I'm going to left click on this. When I left click, you'll notice that I am in my documents view. I'm looking in my documents. I'm going to navigate to where my designs are stored. And I believe I stored them on my desktop. Actually, I did not. Let's go back. We're going to go back one. And we're going to scroll down and actually have them stored in my design. We're going to go ahead and view these in the icon view. Excuse me 1 second. It looks like I am having some difficulties. But in my icon view, you should be able to read these designs. Hold on 1 second. I'm just going to pause my screen real quick and make sure I've got the right lines open. Neil, are you available?
Andrea?
Yes. Sorry about that. Okay. I'd like to show you my screen here. And, I apologize. I'm having actually some difficulty on my computer. I believe I need to reboot. But what I want to show you here is an And actually, Neil, can you see my screen?
Uh-huh.
Okay. What I want to show you here is that with the Generations automatic icon creator, we can now actually view our designs as thumbnails before we bring them into our program. We can actually view them as thumbnails even outside the program. Right now I am outside Generations, and you're viewing my thumbnails of my stitch files, which before we didn't have. So this is really exciting. I can actually see the lines. If I mouse over a design, it actually tells me what type of design it is, how many stitches it has, how many color stops, the size of the design, and in inches. We can always change these preferences actually when we go into the Generations icon creator. Here's the Generations icon creator on my desktop here. And when I select it, I can tell it what actual embroidery files I want to see. I can select all the embroidery file types and hit OK. Make sure all my all my embroidery files will show as thumbnails. I can even use graphic files and quilt files. So this is really neat. I know we've had a lot of people asking about this. We've actually finally have it. So this is really exciting for me. We'll go ahead and press OK. And it say that I may have to reboot for any changes to take effect. So with my Generations, again, I'm going to try and do this one more time. I'll import the design, or I'll go to My Design. And Neil, I don't know if we can switch to your screen for a second to show how you can view this. I think I need to reboot, and I apologize for this, but let's go ahead and change you to be the printer, and you can see how that works right within Generations. So I'll go ahead and make you the presenter.
Okay, so I'm sorry, but this is what Andrea was trying to show, is that when you go and you import using enhanced formats plus injections, you can view what it is that you're bringing in, just as a thumbnail. So inside a folder, there's a bunch of PES files that are on my computer, or artwork, or whatever it is. Here's some PES files. So if I select those, I can just go ahead and view it, either small or large, as icons. And it doesn't matter what format it is. Any of these formats here, it just shows up right inside my Generations Enhanced Formats plus Import. So I find what it is I want to import, hit open, and it brings it to my screen, and voila.
Well, thanks, Neil, for that, and I apologize. We'll definitely have that corrected by tonight's webinar. So we're going to go back to my screen, and because I can't see it through here, it's kind of neat because I can always go through my Windows Explorer and open up my designs and say, okay, well, this is the one that I want to bring in, which is ATG-SFT003. So we're going to go back and we're going to find that one. There's that design. We'll go ahead and hit open, and it'll bring it right into my screen. So this is the design that I'd like to embellish with the Puffy Foam. And what we're going to use is we're going to use a building block that, and actually, Neil, I'm sorry, can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen fine, Andrea.
Okay.
Also, before you go there, just want to point out also that she's showing you in the Icon Creator Plus program that she's not opening any other program. That's just running on her PC, and you can view your designs not only in Generations, but in your, Outlook Express or, whatever program it is. So when you're attaching and sending your files, you'll be able to see them. But, okay, enough about that.
No, it's great because it's such a handy tool, not only for Generations, but just for, all use. Like you said, if you're emailing a design to somebody, you can tell what design it actually is if you're viewing the thumbnail without having to memorize, what the number is and what the name is and all that good stuff. So it is a great tool. I'm really excited about it. I wish I was, reinstalling on my computer before this started, and the one thing I forgot to do was reboot. So anyway, we do have the design in, and it was okay that it wasn't showing up on my thumbnails because I could still view it through the Windows Explorer. What I'm going to do with this design, we're going to take an existing building block and create a nice border around the butterfly. But before we do that, I want to take out these scrolls. I'm going to take the scrolls out. So we're going to do a little editing before we create the building block border. And then create, at the end, have that border actually be a puffy foam design. So it's this light blue and this dark blue that I want to get rid of. And actually on the left-hand side, what I see here is my light blue and dark blue, my color chips, to represent those pieces on the design itself. So I'm going to left-click on the light blue color chip. After I left-click on it, you can see that it selects it in my design screen. And then I'm going to do a Control plus Delete. When I do that, it says, hey, these objects are locked. Are you sure you want to do this? Yes, I do want to do this. I want to complete this operation. The reason those areas are locked is because this is a stitch file. Anytime I bring in a stitch file, these are locked because these are needle points. So then I will left-click on the dark blue color chip. Once those are selected, I'll then hold my Control key and then hit Delete on my keyboard. I say, yes, I do want to delete this. And now I'm left with my butterfly. The last thing that I want to delete is this little gray area. I'm going to take that gray one out. I can find the color chip by clicking on the color chip. It selects that area, and then I'll do a Control Delete. One more time, I'll just say yes. The two butterflies, I'm going to put a nice border around it, and then turn that border into, digitizing it especially for Puffy Foam. The border that I'm going to use is going to be from my build bar. Right now, my building block bar is hiding. So we're going to show that block bar by going up to View on the main menu bar, Toolbar, and then Building Block Bar. When I left-click on Building Block, my building blocks come up. I am going to go to my Edges, left-click on Edges, and here I've got Edge 0, 1. This edge I'm going to use 4 times, but I'm going to create a very special. I'm just going to left-click, drag, and bring this into my screen. When I bring it into screen, I'm going to kind of place at the top here. We're going to 4 of them around this design. What I'm going to do is, with this selected, I want to make sure that this is centered with my butterflies. Let's move it off to the side so we can really see how our aligning tools can help us out. With that selected, I'm going to hold my Control key and left-click on the butterflies. It selects both areas left-click, meaning that I can do layout function. I'm going to go up to my Edit toolbar, Edit. We'll go to Align and Distribute, and we're going to align vertical. The align vertical center is usually good. Areas that are on top of each other or stacked on top of each other. When I left-click on that, that will align them up with each other. So what we're going to do here, let's go ahead and look at this in the 3D view. A little bit about Puffy Foam now. With Puffy Foam, we want our stitches to not only perforate the foam on the edges to leave the foam away. We want the foam to stay as intact as possible. So what we need to do to the area that's going to be Puffy Foam, we have to change settings in here. First of all, I'm going to right-click on this area. This is a little bit less dense than our normal density. And let's talk about density for a second. Density is spacing between your rows of stitching. When you have a larger number for your density, which down here at the bottom, we see that our density is at 0.6. I'm going to take that density and we're going to go up in number. I'm just going to change that to 2. When I change that to 2 and I hit Generate, you're going to see that our stitches will now be really spread out from each other. So it's very open. Density, again, is the spacing between your rows of stitching. So when you have a larger number, you have more space, which means it's less dense. To go down in number, we also look at our stitch count just on this piece right here. It's 401, and that's at a 2.0 density. I am in millimeters. I'm going to be working in millimeters for this whole project, and if you want to change to millimeters, you can always go up to View on your main menu bar, go down to View Preferences, and in the General tab, there's your measure unit, and it says millimeters. I'm going to press OK. So with Puffy Foam, we actually need it very dense because it's laying on top of the Puffy Foam, and it has to perforate it. So we need to go down in density. I recommend that we go down at least, half the default. The default in this program is 0.4 millimeters. So half of that would be 0.2. You're going to see a major difference between the stitch count when I go from 2.0 to 0.20. Once I do that, we're going to go ahead and generate our stitches. Once we generate our stitches, you can see that look how that changes. That goes all the way up to 2,351. Now we have some other things to change, not only the density. Let's go ahead and zoom in just on this area. We're going to click on Zoom Selected Object, which is this icon right here. It looks like a zoom in magnifying glass with a square and a triangle. I'm going to left click on that. We're going to see that we have stitching that drops down in between, which really, creates a really nice scalloped kind of edge, but we don't want that for our Puffy Foam. Now there is a word of caution here, is that we are going to eliminate this, but when we eliminate it, I want you to take into consideration your embroidery machine. Your embroidery machine, most home machines, the sewing/embroidery machine, have a limitation as far as how long the stitch can go, and that's usually ½ an inch or 12.7 millimeters. Once it goes beyond ½ an inch, which you can program in the software, but once it sees it on your machine, it's actually going to do an automatic drop down because of the way the home machines are built. That's nothing that you can prevent in the software. That's just the machine and how a machine is built. So when we do this, we do need to make sure that our longest stitch is going to be shorter than that maximum, and we can utilize our ruler at this point. But what we're going to do, we're going to talk about how we can actually eliminate that and the other settings that we want to use. I'm going to turn the view off of the 3D view, and I'm going to show you a couple of things before we go into our settings. I'm going to zoom in on this top scallop here. And as I zoom in, we're going to see a couple things here. One, we see underlay, which we don't want underlay, and we don't want traveling stitches. Travel stitches go back and forth between back and forth between spots on this area to get the stitches where they need to go. So we need to watch out for traveling stitches, and we need to watch out for underlay. We don't want any underlay because that underlay is going to mat it down, and that traveling stitch also is going to mat it down. In addition, you can see here that this has stitch shortening, which is good for regular embroidery. But for Puffy Foam, we don't want that. And the reason we want that is because that's going to give us those little stragglers that hang out. So we're going to go to our stitch settings. And in our stitch settings, I just clicked this little icon at the top here. We are going to do a couple of things. We're going to deselect the underlay, which down here right underneath our options, we can just go ahead and deselect underlay. We're going to go to the Satin tab at the top. We're going to do two things in here. We're going to deselect this break long stitch. It's going to override our maximum length or our maximum step. So we're going to deselect that. And we're also going to deselect that auto stitch shortening. So with those two deselected, we'll go ahead and apply that and then hit OK. So now we see that we've got no stitch shortening. That stitch shortening went away. And we also have eliminated underlay, but we have not eliminated that travel stitch. Let's go ahead and zoom just on this specific object. Again, we'll click on Zoom Specific Object. And we see our in and out points. I'm going to zoom out one more time. And we have an in and out point. That's where it starts stitching and stops stitching. So I'm imagining with this design, it starts here, travels through the center, and starts stitching, does our satin stitch, goes all the way to the end over here. What we need to do is we need to put them opposite ends so it stitches in one fluid motion. I'm going to go ahead and bring our endpoint over here. As I bring my endpoint here, let's zoom in some more so we can really see that. I'm going to right-click to deselect my tool and generate my stitches. Once I do that, see how I've eliminated my travel stitch in between? So now I have no stitches. Now, one thing, actually we're going to zoom in just on this. Let's also look at our angles. Make sure we've got nice smooth angles as we travel through this shape. We're going to go ahead and go to View, and then View Angle. And in the View Angle, I've got this one angle that's kind of giving me a hard time because as it goes from here to here, it has this crazy transition. So I'm actually going to take that angle. I'm going to left-click on it. Now we can move that angle just with the handlebars. Left-click, hold, and drag. And I also have that on the right-hand side too. Again, match these handles as your actual stitching. So it goes from block to block. It's going to transition. We're going to have those transitions. So let's go ahead and move any angles that we want, generate our stitches, and now we see that everything looks really nice here. Let's go ahead in the 3D view. Now, on these ends here, they stitch just up and down. There's no stitch on this open bend. So if this is open, we would actually need to cap off the edges, and we're going to talk about this a bit later. But what we're going to do is we're going to take shape, we're going to create a nice border around it, we're going to connect them all, and from there, we are going to do, after that we would actually stitch it out and do our puffy foam from there. So with this, we're going to left-click select this item. And I like to do this in my outline view because it's easier to see, for me, the outlines scalloped edge. So we're going to go to View, and then Outline. When I left-click on View Outline, you can see my scalloped edge. Now the reason we're able to change all settings is because this is a building block and this was create generation. So we've got a limited editing that we can do with this piece. We selected, I'm going to go ahead and edit, copy. Oops, I didn't want to do that, so that's why we've got this nice undo button. We'll edit and copy, and then we're going to go to edit and paste. Now it pastes it right on top of my first scallop. I also want to rotate it, so we're going to go to edit. We're going to rotate, and we're going to rotate left 90 degrees. I'm going to left click on that. Now it rotates it left 90 degrees. I'm going to match it up with these corners here. And we're just going to move that into place. And now I've got the two scallops. What I can do here is I'm going to left click. I'm going to hold my control key and left click on that second one with those two selected. I'm actually going to group them together. So we're going to go to edit, group on group. Then we're going to take that and we're going to go to edit and copy and edit and paste. Again, it'll paste it right on top. As we scroll down to our stitch sequence viewer, we now have 4 scallops. But now we're going to go to edit. We're going to actually mirror it horizontal. And then we're going to mirror, edit, mirror, mirror vertical. So it mirrors it, just the opposite of what we want. And then we're going to move that into place. Now what we have here, let's go ahead and generate our stitches and see what we have. We've got this nice scalloped edge. But right here, in these 4 sections, not joined. So we're going to go ahead and join them. Let's go ahead and zoom in on where they're not joined. We're going to go to our outline view. So we're going to go to View, View Outline. I'm going to select, I right-click on this area to select it. We then will go up to Outline and Edit Outline Mode. I'm going to take a node and bring it this way. I'm going to right-click on this one now, take these nodes, and I'm going to overlap them into these shapes. And I'm going to use my editing tools to move the nodes. I can right-click on red lines and adjust with an R. I can right-click on a node and delete a point. And I can alter these nodes however I want. But the main thing is that I want to overlap into this one and hold my Control key and right-click into that one. Both of them are selected, so now I can merge to each other. So I then will go to Outline and then Merge. That merges it into each other. If I need to make any additional changes, I can do so. I'm going to just go ahead and delete these points here and make this nice and round. This would be a great time to pull up our Navigator, so we're going to go to View and then Navigator. I'm going to go down to that next break, and we're going to go in here. We're going to drag this scallop over, and we're just going to go ahead and drag over. I'm going to hold the Control key, right-click to select, Outline, and Merge. If I need to make any additional changes, I'll do so. Just clicking to delete points and then right-clicking, holding and dragging on that red line to adjust with an arc. Go over to the next break here. Go ahead and move that on over. Click on the other one. And I'm left-clicking, dragging, and moving these over. Just going to go ahead and make some changes. Have these overlapped. I'm going to hold my Control key, right-click. We're going to go to Outline and Merge. So we merge both of them together. Let's go ahead and delete that point and arc it. Now the last one, if we go up to it, you'll notice that both of these are actually selected. And that's because, let's go ahead and zoom out. That's because it's all one piece now. But this is kind of like a snake where it has a head and a tail, and it's just wrapped all the way around. And that's good for the Puffy Foam, because what we want to do, let's go ahead and take these and kind of line them up with each other. So we don't want them to overlap. I'm just going to line them up with each other. At the tail. I'm going to zoom in here. Let's go ahead and get out of 3D mode so we can really see our in and out points. See how the in point is here and the out point is here? There's travel stitches that I see there. Those are the stitches that we want to stay away from. I'm going to right click to deselect my tool. Let's go ahead and generate the stitches. And let's move that a little bit back. And there we've eliminated our travel stitch. So we want to make sure that there are no travel stitches. Let's go ahead and go to, I should have kept on that Navigator, so I'll go back to View and then View Navigator. And we're going to navigate through here and just double check that we've got no travel stitches in here. You know, we can also double check our stitch angles. But as I go through here, everything is looking good. So what those needle points are going to do, we're actually going to penetrate our fabric, or I'm sorry, our Puffy Foam, and actually cut off that Puffy Foam. So if we look at our design, I just turned off that Navigator. Let's go ahead and right-click off to the side, zoom that whole design, look at that in 3D view, and we've got our two butterflies in the next scallop area. I'm going to left-click on my scallop, and it doesn't look quite right as far as the centering goes. Actually, I'm going to left-click off the side. First, I'm going to left-click on my butterflies. Then I'm going to hold my Control key and left click on my scallop. With those both selected, we're going to go up to Edit. We're going to go to Align and Distribute. We're going to Align Full Center. And go to Edit, Align and Distribute, Align Horizontal Center. So when I left click on that, it'll move everything to the center. Things look nice and balanced now. And when I order this out, I do want to do want to print out a worksheet. So when I click on Print Preview, let me make sure I've got my print worksheet or my setup correct. I'm going to go to my Print Preview file, Preview, and we'll call it Butterfly with 3D border. Oops. And we'll hit the preview. When I hit the preview here, you can see there's all my thread colors, and I'm not using a thread, so it's not showing me, my actual thread colors. My last area to stitch is this blue area, which is the scallop, and I can see that down at the bottom here, there's the scallop edge. Before that goes down, that's when I need to lay down the puffy foam. We'll talk about how that actually embroiders on the machine a little bit later, but we're going to talk about a couple more designs and how we actually digitize for them. So it's nice and dense, has travel stitches, no underlay, no stitch shortening, and the in and out points are at opposite ends. Now this is nice because we don't have to cap off any end because the stitches perforate along this whole edge. It's a nice, circular shape and it closed here. Another thing that we can do that will help us out, especially when we print out our worksheet, is we're going to go to View, and then we're going to go to Design Information. We're going to, in the design note, we're going to type in, lay down puffy foam before scalloped edge. This will remind me that I actually need to lay it down before that scalloped edge stitches. So we'll go ahead and hit OK. Let's go back to our print preview. And you're going to see in our design notes, lay down puffy foam before scalloped edge. So before number 13. And close that out. So Neil, I'd like to take a moment here. If you have any questions that we're going to address, we are going to go into more complicated designs that where you're going to need cap-off edges and things like that. But I just wanted to take a chance here to kind of stop and see if we've got any really good questions that we can pause for. I know Neil's probably working hard in the background, with our questions. We do have a really, really great turnout, and thanks again, everyone, for coming.
Okay, I know we're running a little short on time because of that glitch we ran into, but I did have a few questions on the types of formats that the Automatic Icon Creator Plus will display for you. So can you pull up that, the list shows?
Sure.
Also, by the way, not only does it display embroidery designs, but it gives you thumbnails for all kinds of graphics and everything else. So can you just review that list real quick and then probably move on after that?
Sure. So we can see, I'm just going to go ahead and clear my selections. But in these files, it's basically almost all embroidery files that you see out there. It's Biota, Bernina, all different types of Bernina. Floriani, Janome, Melco, the CSC, Tajima, Wilcom, Elna, Melco, Generations, Great Notions, Husqvarna, Janome, the Jeff Plus, Viking, Cross Stitch, Pfaff, Brother, all the different brothers. So there's quite a bit of, stitch types that we're working with. VIP, VP3, VA, the white format. In addition, you have quilt files that you can see and graphic files. So this will create thumbnails for your graphic files too, not just embroidery. But the embroidery is what I'm really excited about, because it's really nice seeing your designs in your Explorer, you know, just navigating through it. So, you know, once you the files that you want to, you have different options to, you know, show the icons. You know, always show the icons and thumbnails. And we'll go ahead and press, we'll press OK. And as we've seen with my computer, that we may have to reboot. But those are all the different file formats. So it's encompassing a lot, you know. Any other questions?
The other, I guess, question, at least pertaining to that program, was does it require generations? And no, it's actually a freestanding program. There's some information on our website, and we'll be going through that at the end.
Yeah, and this constantly runs, so there's no need to turn on the program or turn off the program. That's another nice thing, is that it's just constantly running. You don't have to start it up as soon as you start up your computer. It already does it automatically. Okay, so back to generations. Whoops. Okay, so we're going to go to a new design, and we're going to talk about the more difficult things that we have to divide and we have to, you know, cap off. One, we can take an existing building block, like we saw before, and modify it. We can do this with many different building blocks that we have. Just for example, I saw this building block. I thought it was really pretty, and I thought it would be a very pretty Puffy Foam design. There are lots of pieces to it. I'm just going to size it up, generate my stitches. There are many pieces to it, so we do have to go through and check, you know, these pieces and make sure that, you know, all are correct. That if we need capped off edges, we can do that. And I'll show you, like I said, what capping off edges are. But a lot of the designs that you already have, you can actually turn into Puffy Foam. But you can also turn any design that you digitize into Puffy Foam. So let's go to a new design. And I'm going to go to Create on the main menu bar. And we're going to go to Insert Image. Now I have two designs here that I'd like to show you. One is a simple design and one is a more complicated. Let's just take the simple design and kind of review what we did in that sketch. We'll go ahead and press OK. And it is a image. We'll go ahead and press OK again, reading that image. Read it nice and clean. We'll go ahead and continue. And OK. So we've got these four pairs. And just to show you, we're going to go ahead and generate stitches. We're just going to do one flower. We're going to take one flower from here just by right-clicking, holding, and dragging the box over that flower. I'm going to take that. I'm going to go to Edit and Copy. File, and then Edit and Paste. It is ungrouped when we bring it over here, so we're going to group it together. So we'll go to Edit and Group Ungroup. Let's change the design to a little bit smaller. We're going to scale it down to generate our stitches. And here, we're going to look in the 3D view, and we see that these are complex fills, so that not work for Puffy Foam. So let's change everything all together. We're going to go ahead and right-click, hold, and drag a box over the whole design. We're going to change everything so that you know, we don't have to change one at a time. We're going to go to our property settings. Here, we want to make sure that it is a satin stitch, so I'm going to left-click on satin. Remember, we don't want to use any underlay. We're going to left-click on deselect Use Underlay. We're going to go to the Satin tab. We're going to deselect the long stitch and deselect the auto stitch shortening. Let's go ahead and apply that and press OK. Now the big thing here is we need to check our stitch angles. We're going to focus in on just one petal over here. On these stitch angles, I went to my View Angle, which is at the top, or you can get to it by going to View and then View Angle. I'm going to right-click on this area. And I see here that I've got these angles are a little bit wonky. So I'm going to go ahead and take this angle and bring it across. I'm going to take this one and bring it across. And since we have the area coming to a tip, we don't need to cap it off. And I'm going to move those stitch angles right next to each other. We're going to go ahead and take this and drag it across. Another thing here is that there's a little piece here that maybe I want to just kind of straighten out. So sometimes we do have to go into our view outline. And we're going to go to get to your view outline, is it just the icon at the top, or you can go up to view and then view outline. We're going to go to outline, and we're going to go to adjust at the line. I'm going to left click on the first point of the segment that I want to isolate, left click on the second endpoint of the segment I want to isolate. There's that segment. I left click on the segment to select it, and now I've created a nice flat edge. We'll go ahead and generate our stitches. So that looks nice. It's going all the way across. We're looking at our angles. Go back to those angles, and let's go ahead and fix those pieces. And the reason we have to fix those is because we altered the original shape. Go ahead and generate. So here you do have that open end. This is where you would have to cap, okay? But up here we don't have to cap, because if we look at our needle penetrations, get out of the 3D view, we've got needle points that are real close to each other. The one thing I do see that's a big no-no is that traveling stitch. So let's take the end point, drag it on the one end, left click, hold, and drag, let go, and it stitches from here down. Let's go ahead and generate our stitches. So now we've got no travel stitches, no underlay, although we do need to cap off this edge here. To cap off the edge, we do have to create a segment right here that has to go in an opposite direction of this piece, which is, this angle right here. A lot of times what I like to do is use this existing shape and create a cap of my own. With this area selected, I'm just going to go to Edit, Copy, and Edit, Paste. What's nice is that it pastes it right on top of my area. So there's that petal, that second petal. There's the first one, and then the second one. I can easily go to my view outline, so go to View and then View Outline. And in here, I want to cap off this edge or create a little piece here to create the cap. So I'm just going to go to Outline, Divide with a line, and I'm going to come outside this area, make a left click, another drag all the way across and left click, hit Enter on my keyboard. I'm going to press Escape to get out of the tool. While holding Control, I'm going to right click on that bottom piece. This top piece we don't need, so I'm going to Control Delete. When I generate, you're going to see that I now have a cap underneath. This cap, if I right click on it, has the same settings as this piece because I copied and pasted from it. But if I look at this in the 3D view, you're able to see it a little bit better. This cap is stitching on top. Again, the in and out points are not on opposite ends, so we're going to go ahead and bring the end point down here on an opposite end. Let's regenerate our stitches. We want the cap to stitch first before the petal stitches. So with that selected, in number 7, I'm going to right click and I'm going to say Move to Top. And I move that area to the top. It's hidden, but what it's going to do is going to perforate our foam at the bottom here on this edge because our satin stitches don't have any perforation. So it'll stitch that and then stitch that. Now another important piece of the puffy foam, and we're going to kind of go to another design, but you need to, even if your computer or your machine is not capable of trims in between areas of the same color, it's very important to make sure that these areas have trims. You do not want any travel stitches. With the first design, we only had one piece, so it didn't need to go back and forth between multiple pieces. With this design, we have multiple pieces that it's going through, so we need to make sure that there's trims throughout in each one. Now on home machines, those trims will convert to jump stitches so that it will just jump from one area to the next with no needle penetrations in between. So I'm going to left click on number 1. With that selected, I'm going to hold my Shift key, and I could, left click all the way to number 7. To have a trim in between 6 and 7 is kind of redundant because it's automatically going to trim anyway to change my color. What I'm going to select everything in between. I'm going to left click on number 7. With that all selected, I have a properties box at the top of my stitch sequence viewer. I'm going to left click on that stitch sequence viewer and select where it says command. It had a gray check mark in there, and the reason it did is because there was one trim already in here. I'm going to go ahead and left click on it. It'll go blank, and then left click on it again, and it'll be solid, a black solid check mark. I'll press OK. When I press OK, you're going to notice that in my stitch sequence viewer, we now have trims in between every area. So you want to make sure all your caps are first, and then each area. Now let's talk about a more difficult design. So we'll go to File and New, and we're going to go to Create, and then Insert Image. There's this fleur-de-lis. It's a really nice image, and I want to turn it into Puffy Foam. We're going to press OK. We'll bring it in as a scanned image, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to deselect this auto select and tell the program only to read black and white. So that's only 2 colors. We'll go ahead and press OK. It's reading the image. I scroll through it. It looks nice. We'll go ahead and hit Continue. And we're going to change the size to about 100. And that's, again, in millimeters, so we'll press OK. And when I press OK, I'm going to turn the image off in the background. So we're going to go to View, and then Hide Image. I'm going to left click on Hide Image. What I want you to note here is that when I right click on this area, it's all one piece. Many times with areas that are all one piece, we have to separate them because I'm going to show you what happens when you change it to a satin stitch. Let's go ahead and generate our stitches. Right now, let's go ahead and look at it in 3D mode. And let's change the color. I'm going to left click on the color chip. Let's change the color. That's OK. And in here, we see that, as they are selected together, it is on auto judge. It's an odd shape, so it's filling it with a complex fill. So I'm going to change it from auto judge just on my drop down menu on my quick toolbar and change it to satin. When I do that, let's go ahead and zoom in here. This is going to be a very wide satin stitch, but this is for demonstration purposes. Let's go ahead and turn off the 3D. It does section it off properly, but let's go ahead and change our setting. I'm just going to deselect these underlays. It's a little bit easier to see while the density is still a little bit open. We're going to hit Apply. Let's go ahead and hit OK. And no matter where I put my in and out points, go ahead and generate the stitches, you're going to have some sort of travel stitch. So we need it separated in segments in that, this piece needs to be a segment, this piece needs to be a segment, and even down here, let's go ahead and also change this to a satin stitch. This piece needs to be a segment, and this piece needs to be a segment. These pieces are okay because they're each their own, but think of it in the satin angles. Where do those angles divide? Which I can see they divide right here. So let's right-click on that area. I'm going to zoom in where I want to divide these areas up. We're going to go to View, View Outline. I'm going to press Escape to get out of my zoom-in tool. We're going to go to Outline and Divide with a Line. So here, when I divide with a line, I'm going to start outside here and end outside here. On this side, I'm going to do the same thing. And you can see I'm not quite getting exactly in that crevice, but that's okay. That's why we have our editing tools. I'm going to press Escape to get out of the tool. I right-clicked off to the side. It selected that background. I'm going to right-click back on this. And just to make sure I have a nice, smooth edge here, I'm going to go to Outline and Adjust with an Arc. I'm going to start up here, left-click, start down here, or end down there, left-click, hold, and drag. And I can drag that wherever I want. I'm just going to leave it there and left-click. Left-click on this part of the segment, Left click on this part of the segment, left click once, and left click again. Press escape to get out of the tool. So when I go from this top down here, go ahead and zoom that specific area. It's going to be nice and smooth. Let's take these areas. Let's zoom in over here. And a lot of times I like to go into my edit mode. So we're going to go up to outline, edit outline mode, and I'm going to overlap these a little bit into this piece. The same over here. Now we also need to make sure, go ahead and eliminate this point. And what you're seeing, those black lines, those lines right here is the background. One thing where areas meet is that we don't need to create caps, because if we look at it, let's go ahead and generate our stitches. These stitches are going to go in opposite directions or in like directions to where it'll perforate the foam just fine. After we have these separated, let's zoom out so we can see the whole design. We're going to check our in and out points. This is great. Our in point here and out point here. So at the beginning, at the end. Now this one goes second. Well, I don't want that one to go second because this one has to stitch underneath this one. So we're going to take number 3 with number 3 selected with a left click. I will then left click, hold, and drag it to number 2. Again, I want my in and out points at opposite ends. So I drag my in point there, out point there. This top one, let's take the in point here and the out point here. I'm going to right click off to the side. Let's generate our stitches. And I see a travel stitch appear. And the reason is because I've got no trims. So we're going to take 1, left click on 1, hold my shift key, left click on 6. So we select everything in between. We're going to press our properties box where it says trim. We're going to left click to deselect it and then left click again to select it. We'll press OK. We're going to right click off to the side. Let's check our in and out points and generate our stitches, and now it looks nice and clean. On this section just by itself, we do need to cap off this end. So again, I'm going to edit, copy, and then edit and paste. Number 7 is the same as number 3. I'm going to left click on number 7, go to View, View Outline. Then I'm going to go to Outline, divide with a line here, enter, press Escape, Control and right click, and then Control Delete on what I had selected on. Let's generate our stitches. Make sure our in and out points are at opposite ends. We're going to go ahead and make sure that number 7 is stitching first. So we're going to right click and say move to top. And then we want to make sure it does have that trim, generate our stitches, and we can see that that cap goes down before these areas stitch. Another thing that we want to check is our stitch angle. You know, there's a crazy transition there. Let's change this one here. You know, make sure the cap is going in an opposite direction. You see the cap? Let's go ahead and select the cap. The stitching is going up and down, whereas the piece is going left and right. You can see that right there. So we'll generate our stitches. We didn't change the density, or we didn't change the, the long stitch or the stitch shortening. So let's go ahead and take these 3 top pieces, right-click, hold, and drag, and go to our stitch settings. We're going to go to Satin, deselect Break Long Stitch, deselect Auto Stitch Shortening, and then press OK. The concern I have here is that this stitch is going to be way too long for our machine, so it's going to automatically break. On commercial machines or commercial type of machines, you can do a long stitch because it has a special structure that allows it to do that. Let's go ahead and, and one thing we did forget, that I forgot, was the density. So let's go out of the 3D view, and we're going to click on the ruler at the top here, and we're going to measure this long stitch. So you can see here that's 22.5 millimeters, which is almost an inch, and that's not going to work on our home machine. You know, that's not going to work on the machines that are sewing / embroidery machines, or, you know, machines that don't have, you know, tubular arms, or more like a industrial sewing machine. So we would have to make sure that that is a little bit smaller. Or another thing we could do is actually split this in half. Let's go ahead and see how we could actually create the puffy foam in another way. We could go in here and we can divide. Let's go ahead and divide with a curve. We start up here, kind of follow the contour here, and divide it into 3 sections. And I should probably measure it out. This is just kind of a rough. So now I've got 3 sections that I could actually, let's have the in and out points at opposite ends. Make sure there's trims in between them. So as we change that, generate our stitches, go ahead and view it in the 3D view. So you could create a 3D look, but you do have to separate it. You know, it's kind of, you have to think about it, you know, and how it's going to be separated. This is almost to that limit, so I would probably make that smaller and do it over again. But these are the things that you do have to think about. I'd still keep that cap underneath. And obviously have to do these pieces too. So one of the things that, you know, kind of as a thank you to bring you, or to watching our webinar, is we have a nice little freebie design, a couple freebie designs, and I want to show you how they were actually digitized. Go ahead and bring in our snowflake here. And in the snowflake, we can see there's lots of pieces here. The way that it was, let's go ahead and look at our stitching. Let's change the color. We can see it a little bit better. And if you look on the left-hand side, there's quite a few areas. So the designs can start to get, you know, pretty complicated. This first part of the design, we scroll through here, 24 pieces are going to be caps. Go ahead and look in our outline view. These are each little cap on this piece because these are open areas. Then you have other pieces that are all sectioned out. So just a little snowflake can actually be quite intensive, you know, dividing areas, making sure, you know, certain areas overlap and things like that. But, you know, for puffy foam, it's very important because you want that puffy foam to come away from the stitching, so all you're left is the stitching and then the puffy foam underneath. Let's change this back to kind of a bluish color. And let's go ahead and view that in the 3D view. And one of the things that's also new is we actually have a 3D alphabet that's already been digitized. A lot of these letters can be difficult, such as an M and a W, because you need caps and you need to divide them. But what we're going to do here is we're going to add some lettering. We're going to put Winter Wonderland in here. So we have a puffy foam snowflake, and this is about 2 inches. So we're going to leave that as is. And then we're going to type in winter. So I'm going to go ahead and left click, hold, and drag a W up. And then on I, and then an N. You can see that with the N's and the W's, things get a little, you know, difficult because you have to divide it properly and things like that. And actually with this, because Wonderland is so long, we're just going to do winter for now. So we're going to take the R. Now with these letters, because we did bring them in separately, they are their own pieces. But what's nice is we can utilize the Super Align tool. I'm going to take these red areas, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of put them next to each other, but I don't have to be real exact because I have my aligning tools. I'm going to left-click, hold, and drag a box around winter. With that selected, let's go ahead and down at the bottom of my screen, I have my aligning tools that I was talking about before. We're going to align the horizontal center, left-click, so everything's aligned properly. And then we're also going to even the spacing. So we're going to click on a horizontal space. We'll even the spacing between each letter. Now, with all those letters selected, we want to put this winter on an arc, and maybe we'll take the snowflake and make it a little bit bigger. But for now, let's take the Super Align tool, which is this T at the bottom. After all these areas are selected, left-click on that. We're going to take our alignment and put it centered on the line. We're also going to change our path to an arc. It's going to be very much like your text tools. Press OK. And we are going to place a left-click here for our first point. You can see our letters are now on a baseline with kind of those text tools. I'm going to left-click here for my second point. I'm going to bow that arc up, and I'm going to left-click to select. And now it is in a nice arc. So even though those are building blocks, we can still use the Super Align tool and use it, really well with pre-digitized letters. I'm going to take this, and I'm going to take one of the corners, and I'm going to take the corner. I'm going to left-click, hold, and drag. We're going to make it a little bit bigger. Again, you need to make sure that you're not going to exceed that, that 12.7 mil. So I want you to look at your, longest stitches. And with this Puffy Foam alphabet, we recommend to go about 1 3/4 inches tall. You can almost go to 2, but you do need to make sure about your long stitches. So now we have winter and we have the snowflake around it, and you can visualize Wonderland being underneath it. I think that would be really cute. We are going to select winter, hold our control key, left click, select the snowflake, and we are going to go to the alignment tool, align vertical center, left click, and now we've got a nice snowflake design. So you may ask, okay, well, how do we stitch it out now? And the way we stitch it out is, okay, so there's our foam. And, you want to choose a piece of foam, and we want to do this like a blue color. So we want to choose foam that is closest matched to our thread. So I found that this one was closest matched to our thread. And after we hoop up the garment, we want to make sure that we are cutting the piece of foam to fit the area. So I went ahead and I cut that to the right size. And in this, we only did the snowflake at the 2 inches. So I know that fits in the right size. The foam that I got actually has a sticky backing to it, so it's nice and it stays right on there. Some foam does not have that on there, so you may want to use some spray adhesive to keep that in place. But what it's going to do, it's going to stitch those caps. And you can see how you've got the jump stitches instead of trim. That's important because look how it's penetrating that foam. You see how it goes right in there, and it cuts that foam for us. Then after it stitches the cap, so that your stitch order is very important, then it stitches the design over on top of it. You can see how that foam is perforated by that stitching. This, I think, is about 2 millimeter puffy foam that we used. And you can see that you can tear out that puffy foam automatically. It easily comes out. In the smaller areas, such as within here, you may have to use like a tweezers to pull it out. But you can see it actually comes out really nice because it is very dense. As you change to different size puffy foams, you may have to bring that density up a little bit. But with that design, you can see there's a couple little stragglers. There's some stragglers here and here. And what's nice about puffy foam is that it kind of shrinks with heat. So you can utilize an iron, a blow dryer, or a steamer to kind of shrink that a little bit. And then you could also use some tweezers and kind of stick that back in there. So here is showing you that you using a blow dryer, you can actually shrink it away. But I do like to use steam actually a little bit better because it makes it more pliable and it kind of, softens it up. So after you embroider it, it's ready to go. That's basically how you embroider for Puffy Foam. There's one more thing that I want to show you, and it's another freebie that you get for coming to our webinar class. And let's see, this candy cane. The candy cane, one thing about doing things for Puffy Foam is that whenever you want to do like let's go back to our pictures. You want to do an outline. You can see this outline. The outline is actually not Puffy Foam, but your outline will stitch first. So if we look at this design, let's go ahead and generate our stitches. You can see that this black outline stitches first. So look at this in 3D mode. I want to show you a couple of things. Because our candy cane has different colors, we are going to use red and white Puffy Foam. So the way that it stitches is that it stitches, it stitches the border first, and then it actually has some walking stitches that go around on the interior of the Puffy Foam. This will help perforate the Puffy Foam. These stitches are kind of closer together, and it'll help perforate the Puffy Foam, and then after that, you have stitching that goes on top. Then it goes to the red, which actually has those running stitches. And again, it has trims in between each one, just to make sure that you don't have any traveling stitches. You don't want to mat that foam down at all. So Neil, I know I went a little over time, but that is my lesson, or my showing you the technique. And go ahead and go. Sorry. Go ahead and see if there's any questions, or if you want to start talking about and wrap up the webinar.
Yeah. Thanks for showing us all those awesome techniques, Andrea. Appreciate that.
Thanks.
And as far as the questions are concerned, because we're running over this morning, make sure and answer those questions in the chat box, and I'll post those, along with the webinar on Monday so that you can see those. But I do want to go through some specials that we're running with some of the new building block sets and the new Automatic Icon Creator Plus, which is what we're announcing today. So if we can switch it so
sure.
I can have control. Appreciate it. Second, guys. Okay. You see my screen?
Now I can, yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm just on the Generations website, which is generationsemb.com. And most of you probably, by joining the webinar class, have already visited the link for our program. But if we go to the Software tab and we go down to Automatic Icon Creator Plus, that's the new program that we were talking about. It is a freestanding software system. You do not need to own Generations or really any other embroidery software program to operate it on your PC. It installs, it's a one-time process, and it just simply runs every time you start your computer up. It gives you the thumbnails of all your designs, as well as your graphics and quilting the patterns if you're a quilter, and any folder inside your Windows program or your Outlook, Windows email programs, as well as inside your import process for Generations. We do have some information explaining, what it does here on this tab, and you can go ahead and read through this. If you have any questions, please feel free to get in touch with us. Obviously, it's a holiday weekend, and we're not in the office today, but if you do have any questions, you can just either email them in or give us a call on Monday, and be glad to answer any questions you have. But we do have some introductory pricing special offers now posted. I just posted them while we were doing the webinar class. So if you do want to read about them, just go ahead and click on this Request Order Now tab, and it'll take you into the promotional pricing that we have. The Generations Automatic Icon Creator comes with Designer Series Building Block Sample Sets, the program, along with 10 Designer Series Puffy Foam designs, and 10 of our finest Designer Series Building Block Sample Sets, which are the ones that you can see if you view, go to our Software tab and then click on Building Blocks. You're going to get the top seller out of each one of those sets. So you're going to get a total of 20 building block sets or designs, as well as the program. This program we're going to retail as a package for $99. We are going to have a holiday special on it right now for only $74.95. These prices also, by the way, are for downloadable versions. So, you'll be able to download it and install it on your computer right away. So anyway, it'll install a icon on your desktop like this, and it's pretty simple to install and run. But if you have any questions, just give us a call. But anyway, that's the pricing for the Automatic Icon Creator Plus. And then Andrea was working through with the font that she was using where she created Winter. That is a special 3D Puffy Foam lettering set that we have created. It will build itself to Designer Series plugin. So if you do just want to purchase that, all the letters are set and recommended to be used no bigger, if you're using a home machine, no bigger than 2 inches and no smaller than 1/2 inch. So those building blocks, even though building block bars design elements are 100% resizable, with that particular set, we do recommend you go with those within that size range. That set includes capital letters for all the letters as well as the numbers, and you simply just drag and drop them into the screen, and you can create 3D lettering on any of your existing designs or new designs that you create yourself. That set is MSRP for $49.95, and we're going to run $10 off on that through the holidays here, making it $39.95. So with that one, you can also request information there. And then, I don't know, did you go into the Monogram?
No, I didn't. I didn't even show that, but that's
okay,
another.
If anybody wants to hang out a little bit afterwards, we're running a little bit over. Obviously, this is a live class, so we'll tighten it up a little bit this evening. If anybody wants to join us again, you're more than welcome to. But we also have a fancy Monogram set. It's a Designer Series building block plugin. And you can see kind of a sample of what it looks like there. And that set, includes all capital letters for, the alphabet, and it's also $49.95, and we're going to put that on sale for $39.95 as well. So anyway, if you'd like to, get any of these products, you could just simply click on the Request Order icon, and it'll take you into the order form. So the order form here has some special instructions. The pricing is for downloadable versions. You can order a actual physical copy sent to you of your order for an additional $10 if you'd like. The Automatic Icon Creator Plus program is an automatic delivery. So as soon as you order it, you'll be able to download it and install it onto your computer. The immediate download is a temporary activation. So you will be sent by somebody at Generations. You'll be sent an email within 7 days, because the temporary activation lasts for 7 days, that you install the product code to the program, and then it'll be installed forever. So you'll be able to get that and play with it right away today, and enjoy all the nice features of that new little program. Like I said, it doesn't require the dongle, it doesn't require Generations, but it works within Generations or outside of Generations. So it's a pretty cool little program, freestanding, inexpensive, and solves a lot of headaches. I like to call it, when you're looking for your design and you can't see what it is, and you're writing down numbers and all that sort of stuff. It can be tedious. So this saves you a little peace of mind as far as that's concerned. The building block sets will also be electronically delivered. However, since we are doing this on the weekend and we do process each order individually, we will be actually delivering those to you electronically on Monday. So you go ahead and order that, and you'll be getting that to play with here shortly. So anyway, if you'd like any of these products, we do have a special link here for international orders, or for those of you that would just prefer to use PayPal, you can just click here, and it'll take you to the order form for purchasing through PayPal. We have set up all the different combinations for the various products. So for an example, if you want to order just the Icon Creator Plus, you would just select that one, or if you want to order just one of the Monogram sets, you can do that, or any combination there. So you select that and click the buy button, and it'll take you over to PayPal. I'm going to go ahead and go back, though. So for those of you, which is the majority of everybody that's in the webinar class this morning, because I believe it's the middle of the night in Australia and some of the other countries that a lot of our users are in, probably aren't in this morning's class. So you're going to go ahead and fill in your name and your email address. This is the email address that you're going to get delivered your product to. So make sure it's typed correctly, and it's the one that you check. So I know a lot of people have junk emails and then ones that they actually check. So make sure and put in the one that you're going to check, because that's where it's going to get sent to there. So anyway, you go ahead and put in the quantity that you want. Also, by the way, the Automatic Icon Creator software program can be installed on a couple different computers within your home. So, you can install it in the product license. Andrea, do you remember how many computers
I'm sorry?
available to be used on? How many computers you can install Icon Creator on? I believe it said in there. Sorry. Anyway, you don't have to order one computer, I guess is what I'm getting at. I believe it's 3 computers you can install onto up to 3% within your home, okay? And you can go ahead and use the same product code. So anyway, go ahead and fill out what you want. So let's just say, for example, we want one of these. And we want one of these. Okay. It'll automatically update my total here. So that's the grand total of what I want to get. We'll go ahead and hit submit. And it takes us into our billing information. Once you've filled out this billing information and your charge card has been entered correctly, you'll hit the submit button. It will process your order, and then you'll immediately get delivery of the temporary, of the link to download the temporary edition of the Automatic Icon Creator, if that is what you're ordering. And then the building blocks, like I said, will be delivered on Monday to everybody. So I don't know if I missed everything. I feel a little rushed, but if you do have any questions, like I said, please feel free to get in touch with us. The program is quite clever. I think everybody will like it, and we got some good savings on these things. So, like I said, with the Icon Creator program, you're going to get 20 Designer Series building blocks. 10 of them are Puffy Foam designs, and then 10 of them are regular. Or you can also order the lettering. Puffy Foam lettering set or the Monogram set. Maybe let me switch it back to you real quick, Andrea, so you can show the Monogram set real quick. And then after that, if everybody's ready to take off, feel free. If you want to hang out for a few more minutes, I'd be glad to have you around. And thanks everybody for coming.
All right, thanks, Neil. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and give me 1 second. Let me get that up here. Our fancy monogram. And so what we have here is we have monograms that have been specially digitized for building blocks. So if you'd like to do, a monogram, just a single letter monogram, you can just drag and drop it into screen and generate our stitches. When we look at this, you can make it as large or as small as you want. So these are really nice right now, especially for the holidays. Go ahead and regenerate our stitches. You can put them on bags. These are great gifts, great gifts for, getting like a purse or something, or a robe, or anything that can be monogrammed. Monogramming is so popular right now. You can do a one-letter monogram. Let me go ahead and delete this. Or if you wanted to do maybe like a three-letter monogram, let's go ahead and I'm just going to grab 3 here. And I'm going to select them all, and we're going to go ahead and align them horizontally. I'm going to take the middle one, actually, select them all. We're going to, again, align horizontally and then do the spacing evenly. I'll take the S, and if I hold my Shift key while I'm resizing it, it'll size it from the center. I can take each letter and nudge them around, or use my arrow keys. Let me go ahead and regenerate. Let me select all of them, and we'll again go ahead and hit the undo button here. Make sure everything is changed. We can change colors of everything if we want. Just select them. Let's do a pink. So these are like proper monograms that you see a lot, at different boutiques and things like that. So I think, releasing these right around the holidays was great, because these are just such great holiday gifts. And, there's not many stitches to a monogram, but it's so nice because they can be personalized. This is kind of a quick overview, but they do have all the, it's fully customizable, all the building block availability as far as laying out and altering them. So that's kind of what the the fancy monograms entail. Basically, just all your fancy monogram fonts. So I'm sorry if I rushed that, but I know that people probably have things to do and have taken in a lot of information. So Neil, is there anything else that you'd like me to touch on?
I think we're okay. Couple questions I saw pop up a couple times is the monogramming set is not digitized for Puffy Foam. It's just a regular set, and then there's the Puffy Foam 3D lettering set that is digitized special for for Puffy Foam. So if you like the technique, but you don't want to go through the hassle of making your own set and changing all the settings and making sure it's stitched perfectly, that's what we would recommend the 3D foam set for, and then the monograms, like Andrea said, is nice for gifts and things like that.
Yeah, and we can, maybe Neil, we can see if we can get that Puffy Foam set, the monogram set digitized for Puffy Foam as another set.
Yeah, later on the road, but the one that that is available right now is not for Puffy Foam. Also, I'll send an email to everybody that came this morning so that you can get the designs and get the link to the additional information. But it is on our website now, so if you want to visit our website, if you're eager and ready to go, go ahead and feel free to go on there and get what you'd like to see. And the Puffy Foam, I don't know, I think you did say it earlier, but there was a couple of questions about where do you get it. There is Puffy Foam that is denser with the sticky backing that's designed special for embroidery. You can get that from various suppliers, including ourselves. But probably the main place that most people get it, to be honest with you, is the Puffy Foam that they sell at the local crafting and Walmart, places like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just so easy to get immediately, so.
Right, yeah, I forget what they call it. They don't call it Puffy Foam for embroidery.
They call it
Walmart. They call it something else. Craft foam, that's right, craft foam. They do sell packs of it with various colors. You do want to match your thread color to your Puffy Foam that you're using, so keep that in mind. And you can change the color of any of the letters in the Puffy Foam set to whatever color you'd like to do the Puffy Foam with. They don't have to be red. So, yeah. thanks everybody for coming. I know we did run a little bit over. Like I said, we will repeat this information and have another live webinar class this evening. Hope everybody enjoyed it, and everybody's having a good holiday weekend.
I'm sorry. Do you have our information that you can pop up on the screen real quick for people wanting to contact us?
Can do, yeah.
Actually, there's our, oh no, that's not it.